My father's face twisted in rage, his spit hitting my cheek as he screamed inches from me. I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd changed. But when his foot slammed into my leg, I realized the monster my mother had once feared was still alive in him. What happened next not only broke me, but exposed who he truly was. If you've ever believed someone could change only to find out they never really did, you'll feel every word of this story. Hit like, subscribe, and buckle up. Because this isn't just about abuse, it's about survival and justice. I'm 22 years old, and my relationship with my dad has always been complicated. He and my mom divorced when I was just a baby. Why? Because he left us for another woman and their baby boy. Growing up, my world was my mom. She was my protector, my comfort, my everything. As I got older, she told me things I could barely process as a child. How my dad used to hit her even after I was born. How he struggled with alcohol. And how the violence and chaos eventually tore them apart. But as the years passed, I convinced myself people could change. My dad eventually stopped drinking. About 5 years ago. I thought sobriety had transformed him. I thought, maybe he could be someone worth having in my life. So when I planned a trip to visit him, since he lives in another country, I was hopeful, nervous, but hopeful. At first, it actually seemed good. We laughed, we shared meals for the first time. In years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I had a father again. Tomorrow was supposed to be my last day. I imagined we'd go swimming, maybe end things on a good note. I thought we were finally starting over. But what started as hope quickly turned into something darker. It began with money. I noticed he always complained about being broke. Yet somehow whenever it came to my younger brother, he'd spend freely. A brand new TV, unnecessary gifts, constant indulgences. Meanwhile for me, nothing. Excuses. Silence. So I confronted him. I told him what I felt, that he seemed to have no money when it came to me, but always plenty when it came to his son, that it wasn't fair. The change in his face was instant. His eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched, and suddenly it was like the room shrank. His voice turned sharp, slicing through me with curses and insults. I tried to step back to retreat into another room, but he followed. He was inches from my face, screaming so loud I could feel his spit hitting my cheek. His words weren't just angry. They were cruel attacks on me, on my mom, on who I was as a person. I begged him to stop, to back away, but he blocked my path, his body looming over mine. His face twisted, his hands curled, and I could see it. That same aggression my mom once described. He wanted to hit me. He wanted to hurt me. And in that moment, I realized maybe he hadn't changed at all. I started shaking, crying, pleading. My voice cracked, but he only grew louder. "You're crazy," I shouted back, my desperation spilling over, and that's when it happened. His foot slammed into my leg, hard. The shock ripped through me and I collapsed into tears. Pain, betrayal, and disbelief. This was my father, the man who promised he'd changed, the man I risked trusting again. He looked down at me, not with regret, but with venom. He sneered, spitting out vile insults about my mom, calling me names that cut deeper than the kick ever could. For a moment, I thought this was it, that he'd go further, that he'd finally unleash the violence he was barely holding back. Then my brother walked out of the bathroom. His presence shifted the air instantly. My dad knew it, knew my brother wouldn't stand by if he went any further. So he backed off. Not because he cared, not because he regretted it, but because he feared. What would happen if my brother got involved? He stormed away, leaving me sobbing in the room. And the worst part, he never apologized. Not that night. Not the next morning. Instead, he acted like I was the problem, like my silence. My pain was somehow my fault. That night, I called my mom. My voice shook as I told her what happened. Her words pierced me. If your brother hadn't been there, he would have beaten you worse. And deep down, I knew she was right. But here's the thing. Something inside me shifted. I realized I'd been clinging to this illusion of who my dad could be, instead of facing who he really was. For years, I excused him, blamed his drinking, his job, his tough life. But now, there were no excuses left. I decided I wasn't going to let him get away with rewriting the narrative. He wanted to pretend it was my fault? Fine, but I'd expose the truth. The revenge wouldn't be loud or violent or even immediate. No, it would be long-lasting. The kind of revenge that strips away the one thing he cared about: control. When I left the next day, I didn't scream, didn't cry, I didn't beg for him to change. I left quietly, but deliberately, I blocked his number. I cut off contact. And most importantly, I started telling the truth to my friends, to my family, to anyone who wondered why I no longer had a relationship with him. The mask he wore, the changed man, the recovered father, I tore it off piece by piece. He wanted to be seen as reformed, as stable, as someone worth respecting. But behind closed doors, he was still the same. Abuser he'd always been. And I made sure people knew. And that's where the real revenge lies. My silence would have been his power. My forgiveness would have been his shield. But my truth? My truth was his undoing. Because the more people saw who he really was, the less control he had over me. Over anyone, his reputation cracked. His carefully built facade collapsed. And for the first time, he was the one left powerless. He can deny it. He can gaslight. He can play the victim. But deep down, he knows. The daughter he tried to silence will never let him hide again. Revenge isn't always about dramatic scenes or instant payback. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your power, refusing to stay silent and letting the truth be louder than the lies. In the end, I didn't just expose him, I freed myself. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, have you ever cut ties with someone who claimed they'd changed, but hadn't? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of revenge, karma, and justice served cold.